Coming up, ICE raids in Arlington, attacks on tenants' rights in DC, DC fights for budget autonomy, and how you can join the socialist fight. But first, the illegal arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. Hello everyone, and welcome to the MDC Dispatch. I'm your host Tony, and I'll be bringing you news and events from Metro DC DSA. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and be on the lookout for a new Dispatch episode every first and third Sunday of each month. Let's begin with a serious matter, the illegal ICE arrest of Mahmoud Khalil. Khalil is a leader of Columbia University student protests against the war in Gaza and a U.S. permanent resident. The authoritarian overreach began on Saturday with ICE agents showing up at Khalil's door and swiftly yanking him from his pregnant wife, an American citizen, to a detention facility 1,000 miles away in Louisiana for deportation. Let me be clear, this is absolutely a violation of Khalil's First Amendment right to free speech. Khalil's detention is clearly based on his political activism, with many in government, both Republicans and Democrats, agreeing with the arrest and others issuing lukewarm statements, both of which fail to defend basic civil liberties. Just recently, Trump had proclaimed a commitment to free speech, saying he had stopped all government censorship. But the fascist administration's actions have spoken louder than words, from attempting to erase DEI to silencing opponents by using executive orders and the courts. Free speech is in peril. In fact, on Sunday, the U.S. was added to the Civicus Monitor Watch List, a research tool that publicizes the status of freedoms and threats to civil liberties worldwide. Coupled with the divided Democrats' reaction to the illegal arrest of Khalil, both parties are undermining their commitment to protecting constitutional rights, especially when political expression is targeted. That's why we must continue to resist and defend free speech. Keep contacting your representatives and urge them to speak out against violations of civil liberties. For over 5 years, Northern Virginia DSA and allies have been organizing to end Arlington's collaboration with ICE. In 2022, the local coalition won some protections with the trust policy, but a dangerous loophole, Section 7, still allows Arlington police to work with ICE. This means our community is still being targeted, criminalized, and funneled into deportation. ICE raids have already begun in Arlington. The county board has the power to stop this pipeline, but they are stalling on action. Every day they delay, more lives are at risk. More families are at risk of being torn apart. At the time of this recording, NoVA DSA is organizing to pack the county board meeting on Saturday, March 15th, both in person and virtually. Last week, Mayor Muriel Bowser officially introduced the Rental Act, a bill that would gut TOPA and tenant protections in D.C. What exactly is at stake? Let's break it down. TOPA allows tenants to organize and collectively purchase a building when it goes up for sale. This process enables renters to negotiate better living conditions, form co-ops, and secure affordable housing. But Mayor Bowser's Rental Act would eviscerate these protections and remove TOPA rights from properties built in the last 25 years. But that's not all. The Rental Act also weakens eviction protections, making it easier to displace tenants. The bill speeds up the eviction process, limits tenants' ability to defend themselves in court, and introduces provisions that could result in entire households being kicked out if just one member is charged, not convicted, of a crime. This legislation is the result of years of attacks on tenants' rights by landlords and developers. They've been organized, and now we need to be organized too. It's been a year since we first rallied to stop their attacks on TOPA, and we need to turn out and force again. Join us on March 18th at 10 a.m. and make your voices heard outside the Wilson Building, where tenants and housing advocates will rally to take a stand against Mayor Bowser's Rental Act. As promised, Republican federal legislatures are coming for D.C. This past Monday, Oklahoma Representative Tom Cole introduced a continuing resolution that would prevent D.C. from spending more than $1 billion from its own local tax revenue that its own citizens pay that have nothing to do with federal funding. I'll say that again. A representative from Oklahoma decided that D.C. should not be allowed to spend $1 billion of its own tax revenue. This would mean serious cuts to D.C. government spending. And the first funding slashes would be to public services and schools. Learn more in the article we linked in the update from the 51st. The people of D.C. are nothing if not resilient, however, and we're fighting back. Hundreds of residents, in addition to some elected officials, took to the Capitol to advocate against this fiscal terrorism. Our chapter, Metro DC DSA, was also one of over 100 signatories of organizations decrying the federal overreach. The focus of the people's legislative resistance switched from the House to the Senate once the spending bill and DC budget provision passed in the House. Democrats and more moderate Republicans have voiced disapproval of the resolution. We'll keep track of the spending bill here. Voting for the amendment to 2025-02 GR01, Aquí estamos y nos vamos, MDC DSA's Migrant Justice Resolution, passed last Sunday with 85.5% of the vote. Voting now moves to the amended resolution starting on Sunday, March 16th. It's official. The Democrats are winning the culture war. Just kidding. But the New York Times just covered the recent catch-up game that Democrats are playing when it comes to new media dominance in the 24-hour news cycle. And one podcast's rise to digital prominence is noteworthy. Republicans cruised to media omnipresence during the last election cycle using various digital platforms like TikTok, X, Twitch, and podcast interviews. From Trump and Vance to their jockeys, they took advantage of every new media platform available. And there is no shortage of outlets or accounts that wanted to shout the ticket's fascist, racist, transphobic, xenophobic message from the mountaintops. Kamala and her team, on the other hand, did not embrace the short-form digital-first platforms in the new media landscape. Judging the impact of the Harris campaign's dismissal of an online footprint is difficult, but was it smart to ignore a whole playing field when the right has such a vast dominion over TV news? According to Ben Kensinger and Reed J. Epstein of the New York Times, Fox is blowing left and center-left networks out of the water. Don't think too hard about what the New York Times means by left here. Fox aired each of the top 10 rated shows on cable in February of this year. Interviews on CNN and MSNBC just aren't cutting it anymore. But I digress. The point of this article wasn't actually to say Dems squandered an opportunity, which they did. The point is that some left media is actually starting to compete with right-wing podcasters, streamers, and other content creators. For 2 weeks, the MeidasTouch podcast, which is part of the larger digital media company MeidasTouch, beat out Joe Rogan's The Joe Rogan Experience on Apple and Spotify's downloads rank. What's more, Democrats are starting to get hip to the growing arena of left media. They're hiring social media managers, going on podcasts, even getting more comfortable creating their own short-form content. The question that's in the back of our minds in Metro DC's publications working group, especially in the MDC Dispatch, is how do we socialists capitalize on, or rather take advantage of, this trend? We evolve with the transforming landscape and continue refining our outlets like our weekly update newsletter that has over 10,000 opens each week, while regularly publishing our message updates and events on our social media platforms. With our brand new MDC Dispatch, we're also capturing important chapter and regional left analysis and news for an audience that spends their days on their phones, computers, often watching streamers. And it goes without saying that we produce our digital resources in company of tons of left-wing outlets, platforms, and individuals who we respect the hell out of. But socialists need to keep thinking bigger. Attention spans are dwindling. Oversimplified sound bites are often the media that influence Gen Z and certainly Gen Alpha's whole political compass. So how can we grow large and influential enough to make an impact while also stepping back to build a transformational, democratized media landscape? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Join our chapter for any of the huge slate of events coming up in the next few weeks. Our SVPs are linked in the description. Here's a quick list. Sunday, March 16th, NoVA Branch DSA monthly organizing meeting will be held at the Arlington Central Library. Tuesday, March 18th, rally to save TOPA and protest Mayor Bowser's Rental Act at the Wilson Building. Thursday, March 20th, meet with NoVA Mutual Aid Working Group. Saturday, March 22nd, join MoCo Branch for its monthly social at Silver Branch. On March 27th, attend our Socialist Night School on the Hindu supremacist movement. And finally, on April 6th, join the newly formed Socialist Parents Club at Kalorama Park. Find these activities and many more at the calendar of events on our website or in the weekly update newsletter sent via email on Fridays. The newsletter is also available on our website. It's not just DSA hosting events this week, so are many other groups. Here's a showcase of a few upcoming events. Interested in challenging colonial perspectives in your writing? What are some storytelling practices our community can share as we move towards indigenization? Join your comrades at After the Storm's Decolonizing and Indigenizing Writing Workshop on March 18th to explore what these answers could look like. Are you in Ward 1 and interested in participating with mutual aid efforts? Join Ward 1 Mutual Aid for their organizer recruitment event on Saturday, March 23rd at the Festival Center to learn more about mutual aid, hear from community organizers, and for opportunities to get involved. Ward 2 Mutual Aid is hosting a What is Mutual Aid workshop on Sunday, March 24th. All are welcome at the workshop, where you can dive into what mutual aid is and the community looks like now. Meet your fellow community members at Bowl Co-op's Creative Ground Space for this event. And on March 27th, tune into the DC 2050 virtual engagement session held by the DC Office of Planning. Mayor Bowser and the Office of Planning have opened a survey and 3 upcoming community sessions for residents to provide input on DC 2050, the city's next comprehensive plan. This is an opportunity for everyone to provide input on how our city's development must adopt values-aligned policies, including many that Metro DC DSA pushes for to achieve the vision we want. For more information on these events and more, visit the DSA's weekly update DMV Left Community Bulletin section. The Democratic Socialists of America is growing. If you're not a member of DSA and would like to connect with other like-minded activists, community organizers, and neighbors, visit dsausa.org and join today. Metro DC DSA is the 3rd largest chapter in America with over 2,000 members. We are very active in the community and have groups focused on labor, tenant rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental activism, and more. DSA is the largest socialist organization in America, and we would love to have you as a member. These and other stories, along with links and sources, can be found in the Metro DC DSA Weekly Update newsletter, which you can find linked in the description. Look for new videos on the 1st and 3rd Sunday of every month. I'm your host, Tony. A better world is possible.